Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, how are you anyway, dude?
I'm really good. I'm really good.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're still working a lot, even though,
All the time.
yeah.
It
So
doesn't
it's no
end.
change. And
No,
do
it's
you,
actually busier, right? Because when I'm at home, obviously you get to do all the stuff you want to do at home as
yeah,
well.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
crazy. But this is like, it's strange, like, because even doing the show, I've been like, kind of like, quite like, you just do it when you need to do it because you've got all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So it makes sense to just do everything. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking this really weird drink. You can start recording when you want, by the way.
It's recording
Yeah.
anyway, so hopefully that should be
Okay.
fine. Cheers, anyway.
Yeah, cheers. There we go. Let's start off with a cheers. I'm drinking this really weird drink, right? So, like on our lockdown thing at the moment, most people are probably eating and drinking things in their cupboard that they had left
Right,
over.
yeah, yeah, totally, yeah.
And so I got bought this weird liqueur drink, right? It's like a cinnamon liqueur with gold in it, like
Oh,
it's a
really?
special occasion. I mean, I'm not really into drinking gold. I'm not that
Yeah,
decadent.
sure, yeah, yeah.
But someone thought it was something else. They thought it was like a nice vodka, and it turned out to
Hmm.
be a cinnamon liqueur, which is absolutely
Right.
quite horrible.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And so I've had it for about 5
So you
years.
thought, fine, I'm just going to do that now.
That's it. So I'm drinking cinnamon liqueur
Yeah,
with
we've got
apple.
this bottle of Disa Ron that Grace got
Oh, I
that,
love
like,
that.
do you? I don't like it at all. It's got this weird, like, a marzipan kind of.
Yeah, it's almond, isn't it? It's almond.
Yeah, I like almonds, love almonds, but
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't like it at all.
That's
And
good.
so I'm kind of worried that we're gonna, if it ever gets down to that, then that'll be what's left, and we'll have to brave it.
that
So yeah,
that and some horrible soup in the cupboard. There's always some horrible soup that
yeah.
you
There's
don't
always
like. That
something that you thought at some point, I'll get that because that'd be healthy.
yeah, yeah. Well, no,
Or that would be
you
good
know.
that'd be good in an emergency when I just don't want to cook something, and then you
I
just
have
like,
this thing. I have this deep hate of soup, right?
right,
Because when it's psychological thing, right? When the band was first starting out, and I was absolutely skint. I mean, I couldn't even afford to buy a drink in a pub. I used
right,
to go and
yeah,
hang out in the pub and drink water or something.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I did I did some shows, and my mum sent me down some food packages. Right, I was
right,
that skint, and in the food package it was like kind of pasta and all these type of things. And then there was always some soup in there that I didn't
yeah.
like. Right, so I put the soup in the back of the cupboard. Right, and then when I really really ran out of food, all I had was 2 weeks of soup.
Oh
Right, and so
no.
ever since then,
Oh
I hate
no.
soup. It scarred
Yeah,
me. It emotionally
if
scarred
only
me.
you'd had like one every so often, it would have spaced it out. But instead, you were left with like just a
Yeah.
marathon, a gauntlet of horrible soup to get through.
It's
Yeah, so
character building though.
yeah,
When you
I'm not.
when you start a band, obviously you're so skint. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
you just have to get by, don't you?
yeah, yeah. So I should probably do some form of intro that Grace can probably cut back into this. So
Yeah, yeah.
so welcome Skunk Anansie, guitarist, producer, and guitar teacher and
Bloke.
bloke, yeah.
Yeah, bloke.
Ace,
Scott Clancy bloke.
hello.
Yeah, right. I'm
Thanks
good.
very thanks for taking the time out to chat to us, because you are actually crazily busy,
Yeah, yeah,
despite all of
but
this. So
that's right. But I ain't
so
going out. So there's nowhere to go
yeah,
out.
yeah.
So yeah,
Well, I mean, that's kind of the key to all of this, really, isn't it? Just
yeah,
stay in,
yeah.
and hopefully it'll go away. Ignore it and it'll go away.
I mean, to be honest, I literally haven't. I must have been since the lockdown started until I actually kind of came out of working from the building. We went sent home.
Yeah.
I think I've only been out like on the street like twice, like
Yeah,
at all.
I
You
haven't made it.
know,
I've been at a couple of supermarket runs, and I went for one walk on a really nice day, and yeah, that's about it really. I can't really think of,
I have been doing night walking though. I mean, like when I'm
Right,
talking like out on the street, daytime people type of thing. But I've been doing night walking, because in the
right,
day
yeah,
it's like you end up doing a lot of online stuff. 7, 8, 10 hours a day online,
yeah, sure,
and then your back and your body and all this needs a bit of a
yeah,
stretch. And then by the time I finish around about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, I'll go for a walk around the perimeter of the
right,
park where
yeah, yeah.
and it's absolutely deserted, and it's a really good time. And so I've started writing poetry. There you go.
Really, crikey.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of creative kind of thoughts. Like everyone's always going, be creative, learn a new
Yeah,
instrument,
yeah,
do
yeah, sure,
that,
yeah, do something
I
new,
mean,
yeah,
it's like, I agree with that, but at the same time, it's like there's no pressure to be creative. But
yeah,
everyone was kind of going, you should do this and you should do that online and all this stuff. I was like, I'm busy, right? I'm busy.
Yeah.
I need something that's a bit of an escapism. So
Yeah,
I started
sure.
doing these night walks, but not listening to music, because normally I'm listening on my headphones.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
And I started thinking about how I actually really felt. So I started to just write it down in poems, because I've been doing poetry stuff with my son for his
Right.
schoolwork.
Right.
And it kind of just like made me think.
Unlocked it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really fun. It's really good.
Wicked, awesome. I mean, I've never really like, speaking as someone who obviously writes like so many of my thoughts down, and like I've got bags and bags of lyrics that I haven't kind of used and stuff, that I think it's as much like a diary or whatever, but I wouldn't really consider myself a poet. But as a writer, as say, I think it's important to kind of like every so often get your own headspace, just to be able to ruminate on things, and that's how that kind of starts to form into something that you even feel like writing down in the first place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm not very good at English, right? So it's like poetry for people who aren't very good at English.
Right, cool.
So
I mean, I don't think there's any laws. I don't think there's any laws of poetry, is there? So
no,
I think you're allowed. I think it's about communicating at the end of the day. It's the same with lyrics. I remember Iggy Pop saying this thing about when they wrote No Fun. He was particularly trying to have as few words in the song as possible. So he'd reuse like words, and then that wouldn't count because it's not a new word. So he'd be like, no fun, for me, no fun. And then he's no fun to be alone. So that's, to be alone. So that adds up to, and he like managed to make it like the least he could get it down to was like 21 words or something like that. And
that's because he can't remember anything. He can't remember anything. That's why he's just like, how many words can I remember in a song? That's how many he's going to have. Unlike Tim Turan's 18,000 records that he mastered last week. I was like, wow.
Oh, that was pretty crazy. That's like a whole life. That's a life's work in itself. You look back over that, and that's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And if you wanted to get really kind of anal about it, you could start adding it up on the calculator in minutes of what he's actually mastered.
Oh God. And that's not the whole session. That's like, because he has to listen to it over and over.
Yeah. Well, he says that. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There you go, lads. It's great. You just turned it up. There you go. Awesome. It sounds like Red Hot Chili Peppers in the club. He's great though, isn't he? It was good, that interview, because that's the first time I've seen him in the flesh. Obviously, I've sent stuff to him to be mastered before as well myself, like for years. But I've never actually seen the man.
Yeah, he's a very charismatic soul, an interesting dude as well. Like I really used to enjoy, like when we went to to Master 7 when like for Smilex. Like it's just so much fun just hanging out with him, and lots of like weird little stories, and not even about necessarily music stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of that in there, but because he's really fascinated with like space travel and stuff like that. So suddenly you get like these weird little gems about that, or something about copyright law that he knows from his Frank Zappa kind of fandom or something. And yeah, it's just he's a big font of knowledge. So I knew you'd be a good guest, for that reason.
It might be a diversion though. You go, hang on, Tim, did I hear a little pop on the track?
Yeah.
Goes, did I tell you about Slade and the spaceship travel?
Well, being honest, he's always like the first one to spot it. To his credit, he's always like, you'll be chatting and you go, oh, wait, what was that? And it's almost like he's testing you. Can you chat whilst like listening?
Oi, band, shut it, I'm working.
But yeah, so less about him and more about you. So we'll do this in some kind of order, because the only way I can really attempt it, as you well know, I've known you, but also been a massive fan before that and everything. So there's like, it's quite hard to approach this interview and give it any kind of structure, so that hopefully Grace can edit it and it make any sense later. So I wanted to just go right to the start first of all. So how did you get into playing guitar, and then how did that lead to Skunk Anansie?
Briefly, when I was a kid, I obviously about 12 years old, my brother went to heavy metal concerts, and I begged my mum that I could go to one, and she said, you can only go if your brother takes you. And at 12 years old, he took me to see Motorhead, Ace of Spades.
Amazing.
And it was that pivotal moment, wasn't it, where one minute you're like a fairly normal kid going to school and stuff, and the next day you've seen Motorhead. That's your whole life planned out in front of you.
Yeah,
and that's it. You're going to be in a band, and that's it. And I literally was like that.
Awesome.
So that started it off. So about 12 years old, I think.
Why did you pick guitar and not bass then?
Well, I actually, to be honest, I was going to play bass first. I actually was going to play drums first, right? Because it appealed to me. It looked easy, right?
Just hit stuff, right?
Right. And then I just thought, you know what? I wanted to buy a drum kit. My mum just said, no, you can't have a drum kit. Okay, there you go. That was that.
That's the hard part. That's the hard part of being a drummer.
Then I was like, what's the next easiest thing? Well, it's got to be bass because it's got 4 strings, right? Like that. And I couldn't get hold of a bass. And then one day I was going down the street and I saw a guitar hanging up in the shop. And I called my dad. It was a Sunday. I called my dad. I said, Dad, there's a guitar in the second-hand shop, and the guy's in there at the moment. He's like sorting out the store.
Right.
And so it was like £20. So my dad drove into town because I was like on my bike. And he just knocked on the window and said to the guy, I've got 20 quid, can I have that guitar now? And the guy opened the store and he goes, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
And he sold me the guitar, and that's how I started. The craziest thing was this was 35 years plus ago, right?
Yeah.
The weirdest thing was about 6 months ago, I drove down the same street and I saw where the old second-hand bric-a-brac shop, right? I saw where it used to be. And then it was like, now it's like a guitar shop, right?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And I went in and it was the same guy behind the counter who sold me the guitar. And and he had a picture of me on the wall with the Spice Girls. How bizarre is that? Yeah. It was really...
That's strange. Really so basically what happened is your dad went and bought that guitar. He thought, God, these things sell well. I'm just going to do a guitar.
Everyone I've sold has become famous player. There you go. At the time, it was
it's like maybe it's like a pick of destiny type thing or something. Where if you go into like that shop, like you're destined to go on to great things. You should probably give them a shout out so that like all the young guitarists would be flying in there like, hey, bless me now.
You know what though? They'll come and they'll bring it back. I bought this guitar here and I'm not famous yet.
Yeah, and you don't offer any kind of this endorsement, but not to the level where you can be sued if people don't make it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sold as seen. There you go. so we're diversifying, but basically, yeah. So I got the guitar. I started playing. I'm self-taught, so I just watched videos, because there was no YouTube then. So some videos and bits.
First few riffs.
It would have been a whole lot of Rosie, AC/DC.
Right, wicked.
Because it was the easiest. You'll hear this a lot. Then it was Black Sabbath. Iron Man and
cool.
NIB and Paranoid, all those kind of things. So they're really simple riffs. And then it kind of went into Motorhead after that. But Led Zeppelin was too hard. I could never do Led Zeppelin or Jimi Hendrix, Sure. So, but I was into that new wave of British heavy metal at the time, which was Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Motorhead. It's like 1980. So I picked it up from there. I taught myself. I had lots of different bands and joined bands and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
what kind of bands? Like what kind of?
They were all based. They're basically either like Motorhead or Zodiac Mind Warp.
Right.
One or the other. Take your choice. Guitarist with gnarly vocals or guitarist with gnarly vocals. And they were usually 3-piece bands because I had a bit more space, didn't I? And I would sing.
Sure.
And the reason I used to sing is because no one else wanted to, so I was a pretty rubbish singer. But it got to a point where I was playing and I had a good local scene and I had a band going on which was really good and we had a little record deal and all these things. But I just was like, I think this is when I was about 20-something, very early 20s. I was like, you know what? I think I need to be successful now as a musician. So I've got to go to London because it was the only place, you're talking 1990 something, very early 1990, probably 1990 itself.
Yes. Yeah.
And I thought that, the only place to actually get success as a musician really was London at the time.
Yeah.
For where I was. So I just moved to London with a suitcase and guitar and I just kind of joined bands, formed a club, did all these things up until I met the guys from Skunk.
Right, yeah. And then, and how did that happen then?
Well, from the club. So I started a club off, which is called the Splash Club in London.
Yes, of
It's quite
course.
legendary at the
Yes,
time.
it's really
And,
famous.
yeah, and then it
Therapy,
went.
Rub
Yeah,
Ultra. Um,
that's who I was playing with. I booked all those bands.
yeah,
We booked Oasis's first show there, and everyone got signed there. Reef Feeder, all these people.
right. Yeah,
Therapy played there, so I knew all those people. I knew that scene, and we had a band, and we would book ourselves. You know, the band I was in, running the club, we'd book ourselves in really good slots. So everyone was hanging out there, and I met Skin and Cass, and they're in another band, and
that
we
was
just became friends.
Mama Wild. Is that they?
That's right, yeah. And it was like, you know, organic kind of stuff, you know, young musicians
Yeah,
hanging
yeah.
out on the scene, having fun, no money. And I talked to Skin and we were chatting and we got on. And I just said to her, I used to DJ in the club as well. I used to have all the white labels for like Rage Against the Machine and
Yeah,
Stone
yeah,
Temple
yeah.
Pilots, all this stuff before it came out. And so everybody was like, what is that? And I was playing Rage Against the Machine. She came up to me and she said, what is that? It was like Killing in the Name of their
Yeah,
first
yeah.
ever release. And I was like, this band from America. They just popped up out of nowhere, right? And she said, oh, it's wicked. And I said, you know what? You'll probably like Soundgarden, Tool,
Yeah,
Pearl
yeah,
Jam,
yeah, yeah,
Stone Temple Pilots, Chili Peppers, all this stuff that was emerging at the time.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
made her a mixtape of it, and that's where we became friends. And after that, I used to let her in the club all of the time, and the guys from the band. And in the end, one day she was like, I'm thinking about starting a new band. And I was like, I'll do it with you, like that. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, for sure.
that's how we got together. But then, you know, I engineered it after that by booking us all the good slots in the
Of
in the
course, yeah, that makes sense. Of course,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, well, that's what you kind of. I don't think people understand that that's actually a lot of it, isn't it? Like getting
yeah,
involved in the scene and booking bands. That's how you get to play all over the country. Is you put on nights, and then you put on people's nights, and then you go and play their nights and stuff like that. And that's how you get a tour together, is by having a big enough
yeah.
network of people that you can go and play with, basically. So
That's it. You create your own luck, don't you?
yeah,
Really. And I think if you look into, I'm a big fan of biographies, autobiographies, and documentaries, music stuff. Always watching them. And what you'll find with most successful people, they've really driven their own career. They're the ones that have like stayed up all night doing this and started their own clubs and their own record labels and done it all for themselves.
yeah,
And there's that kind of case study happens a lot with successful people. Even in business, in fact, you know, you'll see the guy
yeah,
from Amazon or whatever started in his garage, you know, with his
yeah,
pocket
yeah.
money or something. And it's a bit like that. And so I've
I
always
think
been
there's
that
also
industrious
something to
person.
do with. Sorry, I was just going to say that I think there's a bit of timing in there as well. It's like doing the right thing at the right time, and as you say, you know, that was exactly the time when bands were the thing, and heavy, even like rock bands and independent, like smaller bands, and you know, like that was the whole time of, you know, record
It,
labels
it, it,
did spend money like in a big way on
yeah.
them, you know. So
It is, but also it's the right thing at the right time, but it's being aware of it as well. Because you know, if you know, we were quite a heavy rock band, and we were quite, I suppose, when you look at it, almost classic. You know, in the
sure,
kind of melodies and the structures. Whereas if we'd come out all wearing leather jeans with laces up the side and long hair, right, playing that music, we probably wouldn't have caught on
yeah,
because it
sure,
just wouldn't have done anything. But we were conscious of the fact that we were a new breed of people with a different
yeah,
type of look and scene around
yeah,
us.
yeah,
So when we came out, we almost looked like we were in the Britpop scene,
sure,
you know, with
yeah,
like, you know, our beanies and Adidas trainers
yeah,
and
yeah.
green t-shirts and stuff. So
Slightly
we
more,
almost looked like punks.
slightly more militant with your combat fatigues and bits and bobs
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, yeah,
So
I think you
the
were kind of
fashion
like,
was connected.
yeah, I feel like you were kind of almost something that ran alongside, but could also work as an alternative too, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
remember, obviously, Skin said wear clip hop, not Britpop, which was quite famous at the time,
Mm.
and like the way I kind of took that is just to kind of like mean like, well, like we're in this pack, but we're also kind of our own kind of thing. And so I think for like a lot of kids who were like they were listening to a lot of different stuff in those days as well, like coming off of the back of the whole alternative rock thing, and then all the indie British stuff coming in, and then you've still got like the beginnings of like trip hop and all sorts of kind of, you know, obviously hip hop is, you know, sharing festival bills and everything, so there's a lot of real kind of mix of things going on. So I feel like because I don't know where I was going with that, but something about Skin like translating to quite a broad audience in
Yeah.
that sense, because she is an obviously accepting the fact that she's an amazing singer, and that's pretty obvious from the moment she opens her mouth to like anybody who witnesses it, if you know what I mean. But beyond that, I think, you know, in terms of a look and everything, there was something that tied in with that whole rock thing that was going on before. So especially in Britain, you had like something, if you wanted something a bit heavier though, do you know what I mean? Like, I love my indie bands, but I want something a bit heavier as well, that's kind of sus and in with the times or whatever, not like part of the old, not even the grunge wave, but not part of the old, you know, like wave before that really was kind of scythed a bit by grunge, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, definitely, and you know, it's like any kind of band for a long time. If you do something for a long time, the secret of success, it's like a business of anything. You have to keep reinventing, pushing yourself forward, doing something new, and observing the things around you, the way the fashion changes, the trends, the way people are, you know, and embracing it, and using it to create more life in what you're doing. So, you know, otherwise you stagnate and then you just become old and everyone gets bored of you really quickly. I mean, these days people get bored with people in 10 minutes.
10 seconds, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, they said in a study that the average attention span has gone down to, like, you know, they count things in impressions in fractions of a second now rather than even by a second. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, so yeah. So what I was going to say, tying in with that, actually, it's leaping ahead a little, but we can bounce about a bit as long as I keep my head on. I was going to say there was a big gap where you weren't a band, and then when you came back, obviously you come back to a pretty different industry, and obviously it's so about embracing, you know, the new industry and everything. You guys strike me as a band who do try your best to kind of play on the play to the whistle, or, like, you know, kind of play on the platform that you're given rather than kind of wish for some other platform and therefore kind of stagnate a bit as a result.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, right, I mean, we did go away for a bit, but we're all still doing music. Excuse me. So Mark had made like 3 or 4 albums with Feeder. I've made 2 albums. Skin had made 2 or 3, and Cass had done 2 or 3 with Gary Moore.
Yeah,
so
you
we'd actually even been
lots
playing
of stuff as well.
Yeah, and producers and stuff. So we'd still been playing. So, you know, we had transitioned through the kind of the old school physicality to the new digital landscape, right? So it wasn't a shock to us, right? But I mean, with Skunk, it's like, you know, moving forward is always about embracing it, right? And I personally think if you're a music lover, it's the best time ever, because you can access anything, anywhere, as much as you want, right? So every day, right, I listen to iTunes, and I listen to new stuff, I listen to old stuff. It's better than when I had a record collection, way better, right? It's just that a lot of musicians are moaning because they don't make enough money out of it, right?
Sure, yeah.
But if you know, streaming was like £1 per stream, every musician will be going, streaming's the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah, sure, right, yeah, that's true.
So it's the financial stuff. But if you're not talking about the financial stuff, you know, the way you market it and sell it, right? If you're looking at the overall, it's brilliant. I mean, look at the access we've got. We've got loads of people being inventive. There's always lots of content, lots of videos, and there's music everywhere all the time. You know, and I'll pay my iTunes subscription, and, you know, I would have spent that on 1 CD in a month, and now I can download and listen to, like, you know, unlimited stuff. But it's the discovery platform, because you can think of something, you know, it's like Shake-tastic, isn't it? If you can think it, you can drink it, right? It's like you can think of something on iTunes and just dial it in and listen to it there and then, right? So I will listen to, the way I consume it is I will listen to new playlists in the daytime, right? So if I'm working and I need some music, I just put on this one's made for you, or the new rock, or something like this. Something, it's all new music, right? Then at night, right, when I'm like washing up or something after dinner, I'll listen to some guilty pleasure, right? So at the moment, I've been listening to like new wave of British heavy metal. So last night it was Magnum, and then Budgie, and all things like this.
Chucking up crazy things, and you're like, oh, this now. Yeah, I get your point. Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, and then if I'm out walking or something, I'll listen to something that is really pleasurable, that I really like. And it doesn't matter if it's old or new. Like, for instance, when I was out walking last night, I was listening to Gary Moore's latest album, this live album they've made of him, and it's like probably the best he's ever played. I mean, it's absolutely, it's his swan song. He's on fire, right, as a guitar player. So that's like pure pleasure, right? That's not research. That's not keeping up with the times. It's like, so I have these different things. I see what's going on, right? And I have kind of working kind of tasks, and then I have pure pleasure and I have guilty pleasures. I think it's brilliant. I love it. I love iTunes. It goes across all of my devices. I'm listening to music constantly. You know, the quality of it's pretty good as well.
Do you find that you're like, I obviously, my perception of things is you were on a major label and did like kind of pretty major things in big studios with big producers and strings and all sorts. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you've kind of like done the whole gamut. So is the process of making records now significantly different because of the financial side of it?
No, because we still do it like that.
And you just spend the money anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you know what? I think you've got to take into consideration there's a lot of different elements to being a band, right? And they're not just about finances, right? It's about what floats your boat. It's about what makes you creative. It's about what gives you longevity. And it's about what makes you happy, right? So, for instance, when you make an album, you could be... you know, you could go in a cheap studio and this and that, right? Well, I mean, when I'm talking about us, because obviously we gross money, don't we, touring and stuff like that.
Sure, of course.
We could go, let's keep the money and just go and make a cheap record in our house, right? We do have our own studio, right? But we don't really, but we just do demos there, right?
Yeah.
But for us, we just want a really good producer and a nice environment studio, you know, and a really good mixer and a great masterer, and it just makes this classic album that'll last for another 20, 30 years, sounding good.
Exactly.
And it makes us creative. It makes us feel good, and we're happy with the product. So it's what works for you, right? Whereas I could go and make a record in my house if I felt like it, if it worked for me in a certain vein. But when the band comes together, we kind of like to. You know, have that experience.
Yeah, I'm totally sold on it. Obviously, I'm not arguing against it. I love you know the studio process. That's like getting everybody just in this space and focused on this one thing as well. That's priceless to me in terms of,
you know, those rooms in those studios. They're made for you to make noise and not think about things. You're not thinking, oh, is the neighbor going to complain, or is this loud enough? You know, you just go in and you start to create, and it's all about your space, right? And the way we do it is we're self-financed with our own record label. So we tour. So we'll do a really big tour for like half a year or something, all the festivals. And we'll come back with a bunch of money, and we're allot like a certain proportion to make an album. And within that, it'll pay for a really good producer, a good mixer, and good master. So we've always had the pleasure of being able to, you know, and the luxury of being able to choose really good producers. And so we also, and we choose them from the records we really like. So the first producer we ever used was Sylvia Massey.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Tool record. So I was listening to Tool. I gave Skin the Tool album when she was in the club, a whole lot. And when we had the chance, they said, who do you want to produce your album? And I was like, let's get Sylvia Massey because of Tool, right? And so we did. We rang her up and she did it. And the next album, and then Andy Wallace mixed it, who was mixing Nirvana and all that stuff.
Yes, of course.
And so we, you know, and then mastering, I think it was Harry Weinberg, who was the big name.
Yeah, of course,
So we were choosing these people, but it came out really good. And then this next album, we were like, well, we love Rage Against the Machine. Let's get that guy.
Yeah.
So Garth came in and did it, and Joe Bareshi mixed it, who's the guy who did Queens of the Stone Age. I think it was mastered by Bob Ludwig or Harry Myers.
Right, sure.
And then the next album from Matt, what was that? Hang on. It was
Andy Wallace.
Andy Wallace did it because he was like the big name at the time and he was really good. He produced it, he mixed it, and then it was mastered by, I think it wasn't Ted Jensen then. It was another, I think it's probably Howie Weinberg again, right?
And you had strings on that from Will Malone as well.
Yeah, the Massive Attack guy. Massive Attack, so let's have him.
Done so many good things. Yeah, exactly. And then previous to that, even you had the guy who did stuff for Therapy doing cellos on the second album, right?
Yeah, Martin played. Martin
McGarrick. Yeah, that's
right. And so, you know, when we went into, after those albums, we went into, what was it after? I think it's like Black Traffic.
No, it's Wanderlust.
Oh, Wanderlust, so that's right.
Yeah, well, okay, but actually before that, so then when you reformed, you did a couple of songs for the greatest hits. So those must have been crazy getting back together and doing, because there's some great songs as well, like Because of You and Tear the Place Up are instant classics,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
straight
We
away
got
in the canon. Yes.
we kind of co-produced those, but we got Chris Sheldon in because he did Foo Fighters.
Oh,
So
great.
you can
Yeah.
see what it was. We were just going, this guy's awesome. Let's
Yeah.
have this guy. Let's have this woman, right? Because we were like fans. We were picking people who made great albums.
Yeah.
So after that, we used Jeremy Wheatley, who's done just like everything from the Sugar Babes to Bon Jovi. I mean, he's everything guy.
Yeah.
Then Tom Dalgatti, because of the Royal Blood album. We thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's get Tom in. You know, recently we used Cam Blackwood, who is it Blackwood? Blackwell, I think it's Blackwood, who's done loads of great stuff, including George Ezra, in fact, as well.
Right.
But he's a really good producer.
Yeah.
And then we used Jeremy Wheatley to mix, and then we get Ted Jensen to master it. Ted Jensen is the big name in America, isn't he?
Right.
He's done about the last 4 albums for us and all the singles.
Right.
So that was the thing. It was like, spend the money, get the really good people. It makes us happy. We're really productive, and we come up with a really good product. But for us, we're lucky enough to do that. So I can say, hey, we can have these people. Most people can't, you know. But what it does do, it leaves a record that is like, 20 years down the line, still sounds really good.
I think if you guys, if you're going to get back together and do it, and you're going to go out and do all of this stuff, like, it's important that you're, and also commendable that you're putting that kind of attention, love, hope, investment into an album, rather than just putting out something quite easily and rinsing the money from, playing the hits on tour because you've got a name. Do you know what I mean? So I think it keeps the band vital, right?
Yeah, and also when you look at it in a business sense, with a good quality product and kind of, name producers and people like that, when you go to license your product, your record across different countries and stuff, it's more a valuable asset to them. So then you can recoup what you spent on it.
Yes.
So say you spend £150,000 making an album, right? If you can license it to 10 countries, right, for 20 grand each, right, then you've kind of got your investment back. So you haven't really spent anything as in such that, that you can't bring back. But if we'd made it in our rooms and we'd said, we've got a record we made in our room, we went to the licensees, they would probably say, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah, so how many are you going to get?
In a business sense, it's about, you can recoup it when you're a big band and you spend the money. Right. Yeah. It's only when you get stupid and you start to go, and we'll have 50 cabs on top of that and sushi every night and blah, 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 and spend 2 years in the studio, that you don't make it back, and that was the classic thing of the old days of the major record companies, which we've been through.
Yeah. So, which would you say your least productive album to get done was?
To be honest, they've all been the same. We've got a really good.
Oh, hang on, you've stuck a bit. Oh, it's totally frozen. It's going to be a weird interview. It's just this one face for the whole thing. Hang on. Oh no, it's back. It's back.
Yeah.
It's frozen on that.
Hang on. Hold on. Are you frozen too? Actually,
have I?
Yeah.
It'd be weird, wouldn't it? A whole interview just like said without moving our lips.
Yeah. I'm moving here. Are you moving there or not yet?
I am moving. Yeah. What I'll do, hang on, let me pause the recording. Oh no, hang on, you're back. Okay, right. Okay, wicked. Yeah, good. Okay, right. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. Anyway, I think we kind of yeah. Oh no, I was going to ask you. Yeah. So where would you say like you were the kind of most caught up in that whole kind of like taking a long time to get things done and living the life and that?
Well, to be honest, we're quite structured. So when you've booked a studio and you've booked a producer and you've got a certain amount of time, you just have to get on and do it. So most of albums, have been the same kind of structure. Process. So about 5 or 6 weeks, we'll make an album in, and then it's done. And
do you play all those songs a lot live before you go in?
No, not at all. We've kind of changed a lot of our the way we write now. We used to go in with it all rehearsed and ready to go, but now we tend to sketch it out more skeleton-like now and then work on it in the studio. But we still do actually play it live when we record it. room, and then we overdub and we do bits and pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
But we still have that thing where we don't construct it bit at a time. We'll actually all be a live band.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, cool. Yeah, and so has there much that's changed in terms of the dynamics of writing and making the records, like from the old days to the new days, in terms of how people are putting it all together and
I
that?
think you know what, I think we've gone full circle. We started off in a room playing together, then we made stuff in the studio, then we made stuff bits and pieces remotely, then we made stuff which we went in the studio and then we chopped it up and all these things, and then we've gone
Yeah,
back
yeah,
round and now we just literally go, right, we're songwriting now, let's just take a practice amp into an old farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and just the four of us just sit and write music and record it on
yeah.
our phones. So,
Wicked.
we've done the computer recording
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this and that,
You're
and
back to boombox in the
yeah.
corner of the practice room. Yeah, yeah,
And to be honest, it's more or less been like that all the way along. We've just added processes and thrown them out again.
yeah,
But it's what works. I think this is the thing about a band. It's what works for you. It's not particularly any way. It's how you feel creative.
yeah, yeah. And personal dynamics and how you've all changed as people. I mean, like you've been together as friends now for like 25 years and probably knew each other a little bit before that.
Mm. Exactly the same. We're just as stupid as we've ever been.
Really?
Yeah, we're just stupid, just like kids. There you go. Imagine if you had known your mate, right, for 25 years,
Yeah,
right? And you go, hey, let's go down the pub, right? You act like you did when you were with him
sure.
25 years
Yeah,
ago,
yeah,
don't you? Really? You might
yeah,
be a bit
yeah.
older. You might have a little bit more decorum, right?
Sure.
But you're still laughing and telling the same kind of jokes
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
stories and drinking the same way. And it's a bit like that in a band. If you're the same people for 25 years, when you get together, you instantly revert back to that. You have a bit more
Yeah, yeah,
maturity, hopefully, but
yeah,
you're just making jokes and laughing and listening to
yeah.
music, and you feel like kids again. And that's the beauty of music. Is if you go to a concert and say, for instance, your favorite band was, I don't know, Wasp, right?
Right.
And you went to see a Wasp gig next
Yeah.
week, right? You'd be like a 12-year-old again, wouldn't you? You'd be
Right.
like
Yeah, yeah,
throwing
yeah,
the
yeah. Sure.
horns and
Yeah,
and
I still do it, like, well, at your gigs or like Living Color or whatever. I'm still pretty much the same age as when I first saw you in a strange way,
yeah,
like, which
and
is, I
it's
suppose that's what people pay for, isn't it?
yeah, and you know what, that dynamic stays in a band, right? And if you ever meet another band, they're exactly the same. When you meet them and they're on their own backstage, they're just really childish
Yeah, they're
because
just
that's what they were
bunch of
like.
guys.
If it's the original people,
Yeah, yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah. So okay. So there are quite a lot of accolades and things that you guys did. I've seen you headline Glastonbury. You obviously played Nelson Mandela's. Was that his birthday party? Was that you
Yeah,
played?
yeah.
And you've done what, like that gig that you told me about, where like it was Sex Pistols, Rage Against the Machine, and you guys, which sounds like ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've done the Zooropa tour. So like I could try and list some, but tell me a couple of like your most the mind blowing ones, the things that you're kind of like, wow, like did I really do all that stuff?
Um, well, Glastonbury, yes. Headlining Glastonbury is a monumental feat. I have to say that one that topped that, though, last year we headlined Polish Woodstock, and that
Right.
was 750,000 people. So
Oh,
that made
that's like
Glastonbury.
Led Zeppelin. Like that's like the old days of you just look out and there's just endless
Yeah,
people. Oh my god.
yeah. It made Glastonbury honestly look like a house party. It really was that big. I mean, that was amazing. That was a monumental feat. So it's still nice to be able to do things like that.
Yeah.
Pavarotti, we played with
Oh
Pavarotti
yeah, of course. Yeah, that's
for the
amazing.
Dalai Lama, and we met them both. And played with Andrea Bocelli last year, I think it was, in Italy for a charity benefit. Even though we're very heavy, we have our mellow side, don't we? Touring back in the day with like Lenny Kravitz and Killing Joke and stuff like that, that was really fun. Toured America a lot, obviously, with people like Rammstein and Soulfly and all that kind of that era. And then, lots of really wicked festivals. I mean, we're still doing a lot of the big festivals.
Yeah,
and
you are.
So
You're
last
always
year it was Living Colour. We were out with Living Colour, which was good. And
record.
Bon Jovi, there you go, doing some Bon Jovi gigs.
Wow. Did you?
So
What was that like?
yeah.
How was that?
The show was amazing. I mean, to be honest, his voice is quite shot now, isn't it?
Right.
It's no secret. But the actual show was really good. And we all went out after we did our, because we were on before them.
Yeah, how was your set? I kind of was more interested in
Great.
how you went over with the Bon Jovi crowd or whatever.
That was good. It was like 50,000 people, And the thing is, we've earned our place there as well, because it was like, I think it was Holland, and we're big in Holland too.
Okay, yeah, sure. So more even peggings for sure. Like, going across the Midwest with Bon Jovi might be a different thing.
Yeah. So that's really good. I mean, if I was to think about, monumental stuff obviously is to be able to do that Nelson Mandela thing. That was his gift to the nation. So it was, the 80th birthday, I think it was, and that was part of history, isn't it? You're doing something in history.
That's ridiculous. That's like.
But the great thing about it all, is it's not all history, is it? So. You might headline Glastonbury and play for the Dalai Lama and Nelson Mandela, but last year alone, when we were doing our 25th anniversary, I mean, we were doing Polish Woodstock, number one on the charts there, playing with Bon Jovi, 50,000. So we were still the same size and doing the same kind of things. It's not like a bit like a nostalgia trip. It's like
that's wicked.
It's a great way to. It's a great way to live, isn't it? That you don't rest on the past and go.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that you should. It's just because I don't think people necessarily like these days. Everything's reduced to kind of weird little, mainly just the songs, really. So I don't know if people know that there's all this kind of like huge history behind the band where they've done like these crazy things. Obviously, like some of the things you'd say when we were in the studio, I'd be like, what? And that, when you said like about like David Bowie and like how Bowie was your like essentially a friend. Do you know what I mean? Which is insane, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he was more of a friend to Skin. I met him a bunch of times, and he was fantastic. Right? She knew him better because she knew him on as well, right?
Right.
But he was really brilliant. I mean, all the times I met him, he was really fun. I have some really good stories.
You might as well tell the Rollins story when you told me a story. So you told me, pick it up if you want to. I'll start you off. So you told me a story where you were hanging out with Chris Haskett of Rollins band, and then Rollins is over sitting, just reading, being like one man is an island kind of Rollins style. And then David Bowie walks across, and Chris Haskett says to you, "Oh, look, it's David Bowie."
Yeah, he said. It was basically we just toured America with Rollins, and we came back, and obviously I'd met David Bowie a few times, and he was like my best friend, but he was really nice to us as a band, and so Henry's there sitting on the chair, being an island, and Chris is chatting to me. And then he says, "Oh my God, look, there's David Bowie." He's like, "Have you ever been this close to David Bowie in your whole life?" And I just thought, I'm not going to say anything because it wasn't. And I looked up, and David Bowie looks over and goes, "Ace, how you doing, man?" And I was like, "Thank you, Lord," like this. And Chris goes, "Let's talk to him. Let's talk to him." And we went over, and in the end, Henry he couldn't resist it. He had to come over. He was like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" But it was really nice. He was, every time I met him, he was a real gentleman. He was really interesting, and he had time for everybody, and he always remembered everyone as well. He remembered their names and remember when he saw you. It was he wasn't like an unapproachable rock star. He was, and he was such a classic person. Even when he spoke to you, he had that David Bowie voice.
Amazing. So and I guess obviously you worked with Lemmy as well. Which must have been amazing.
Well, I mean, to be honest, working with Lemmy was just a little part of it, right? Because I was friends with Lemmy for like over 20 years, right? And I could say he was my friend,
Right,
and I went out with him many times, right? And every time was an adventure.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Oh, he was just, he was unique. He was brilliant. He was unique. He was really fun, right? And he was what he was, you know. I think he was the last real rock and roller in the world, really.
Right.
You know. But what I loved about him is he was funny, right? He had a great sense of humour, right? He was very, to believe it or not, he was a really kind person, right? And he cared about people a lot as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, he was quite generous as well. He was generous with his time and everything. And so when you see Motorhead, you always think of this kind of rock and roll animal, right? And he was, to a certain extent, because that's the way he liked to live, you know, rock and roll free. But as a person, he never let me down. He was always really, really interesting and funny. And, you know, he was like, come on, man, let's go. Every time I went anywhere with him, he goes, let's go. And you're like, I don't know where I'm going.
But this is going to be
Yeah, it was carnage at the end of it. Whatever night you had, it was a bit like, I am never going to drink again. And it was
until the next time you called.
Yeah, exactly. So he, you know, for 20 years, right until he died, he was a part of my life. And I don't really have any rock and roll mates like that, as in such. I mean, obviously, friends in my kind of era. But it was great, even to when I got married, and you know, after I got married, you know, the next day, you know, on the night after I got married, I went and sat in a bar with Motorhead and drank champagne and this, and then the next day they invited me to play with them for the 25th anniversary.
Oh,
and,
wow.
It was just, you know, I have so many good stories about him. He never let me down. And what a lot of people didn't know is when we used to play in LA, or if we played in like Brixton in London, a lot of the times Lemmy was on the side of the stage at those shows. Because he was a big Skunk fan. So he used to stand and watch the shows on the side of the stage. And people never knew that many times.
That's crazy. And not to move on from Lemmy, but I was going to say also Iommi. It just popped into my head that you did the song with Tony Iommi, which is like, so all the people that you've grown up like learning the riffs of, you ended up. Do you have any kind of particularly anything to say about like Iommi and that song?
I have to say, Tony Iommi was really brilliant. Right, I've met him a bunch of times since, and he is just a brilliant person. He has got an amazing sense of humour, right? A really dry sense of humour. So when we did that record with him, it was me and Skin on his solo album.
Meat, wasn't it?
That's right. That night, we all went out for a curry, right? Around the corner from Olympic Studios with me, Skin, him, and the engineers and the producer.
Right.
And he just told us stories about Black Sabbath, which honestly, we were crying tears. It was so funny because they were true. And the way he said it was like, it couldn't be true. And they were true. And so I remember it being one of the funniest evenings I've ever had, right, with someone. And then I read his book, Iron Man, not long ago, and it's actually got all those stories in there.
Really crazy.
Right? I mean, you know, so this was way before the book was written and stuff. And it was so funny. And, you know, as I said, he is, if anyone has seen anything about Tony, he's a real humble person. He's a real kind of down-to-earth living legend. Same as like Robert Plant. The same kind of thing. You know, these super mega gods of rock, of metal. When you meet them, it's like they're just normal people and they've got nothing to prove, right? Because they've kind of, you know, done the thing. But they're so open, you know, and that's what I loved about him. It was like you meet a hero and they don't let you down. It's an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you guys have got a song about it, so you know.
But you know what? There was a great touch on that story, though, right? After we did that album, I was actually in the studio with Lemmy, right, cutting a song in London, and my manager rings me up and says, "I've just got a package from Tony Iommi for you," right?
Oh, really?
I'm like, what is it? And she goes, I don't know. And I go, send it to me now in the studio. She put it in a cab. Came around to the studio, and I opened the package, and it was like a pewter coffin, right?
Right.
I opened the coffin up. This coffin's like, I don't know, 6-7 inches.
Yeah.
Long. I opened the coffin up, and there is a silver cross You know, like the Black Sabbath ones, Tony
Yeah,
Ron.
yeah.
For me, Silver Cross with my name etched in it, like
Oh
it's Black
wow.
Sabbath. And
How metal
I
as
sat
well.
there.
Like, that's the
I
greatest
know.
metal gift ever, isn't it? And you
I
received it in
know.
front of Lemmy as well, which is like your whole world is like, okay, I've made
Yeah,
it, right? That must be like,
yeah.
okay, I've made it. That's fine.
Yeah. All we'd need after that is like Lita Ford to walk in, isn't it? Basically.
Say, Ace, I've wanted you for so long.
And here's my cross.
So yeah, okay, so awesome. So obviously you were planning to play Meltdown, but is that? Do you know what the status is with that? Is it cancelled? Is it going ahead? Are
Well,
you waiting to?
all of the gigs for the summer, so Meltdown, our own shows, Glastonbury, all that stuff, they've all been hopefully rescheduled for the same time next year. So as long as everybody kind of keeps on it and the promoters are okay and they don't, go bust and all this type of thing,
Right, sure.
hopefully, I think it's going to be, excuse me, I think it's going to be a big shift as well. I think a lot of bands now, they're rebooking exactly the same slots for next year.
Right,
So,
yeah.
I see bands that are touring at this point, they've just gone, okay, 2021 June, we're playing.
Okay,
And it seems to be the same thing for us. So it seems like an industry shift. So it means in one way, everyone's got to take a bit of a year out, but
Sure.
they kind of assured they can do these slots and these festivals next year.
Yeah.
Let's just hope that the promoters and the agents and all this lot can weather the storm, because if the venues and people like that can't, financially pull through, it will, put a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
So that there's that. I mean, we do have a tour booked right at the end of the year.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Which is still going ahead. It's not cancelled
Right, awesome.
yet because it's like 8-9 months away.
Yeah.
But obviously everything, we don't know what's going on, do we, in the world? Everything changes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No point in making too many plans, is there?
Yeah, so we've kept those dates in. They're all still there. Everything's set up. The tickets are there, and everything's valid. I think the people who bought tickets for the summer dates, they're valid to go to the tour next year. We just moved them across. So hopefully the tour stuff will, still be there. I mean, we were lucky to have a really busy year last year. So we did the 25th anniversary tour last year. So that was a really busy year for us.
Yeah, and the live record, of course, which was which record as well. Are there any plans to? Because that was obviously you guys doing it all at this point. Are there any plans ever to archive like a load of cool live things from all through your career and put together a little live album like that? I was thinking the other day that'd be a really cool thing. There's tons of great examples of you guys live. Like,
I mean, to be honest, we have got a big live recording archive. I mean, because when we did that album, I had to go back into the archive to pick like 5 songs because they weren't in that tour, right? So most of the album's recorded on one night, and but there was about 4 or 5 songs that we wanted, like I think Squander and Secretly and things like that we didn't do that night. So I had to go back, and I had like probably, I don't know, tons and tons of gigs to choose from. So there is a wealth of material there. It's whether we want to get into it and,
sort through it. I suppose it's a mammoth task, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was a mammoth task actually putting it together, because I was the one that actually selected all of the shows, all of the songs, sequenced it, and then listened to it all through to make sure that it didn't have any stuff missing or fake, things like that. So I suppose in a way, I suppose I was the executive producer of the album, because there was no producer as in such, and then it went on to the mixer.
Right, yeah, wicked, awesome. You're happy with it?
Yeah,
it's a really nice full sound. I thought, like, really nice. Like, there's a lot of really nice guitar sounds for a live record, which because sometimes if you want good guitar sounds on it, they overdub it afterwards, don't they?
Well, this is the amazing thing about that record. A bit like when we did the live acoustic album. When you do a live acoustic album, you can't really overdub it because all the mics pick everything up.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
So it is what it is, right? And when I listened to the live acoustic album, I was like, wow, did we really play that well on that night?
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And so when I listened to the live record, right, I was like, let's see what we got to do with this type of scenario.
Yeah.
I was actually quite amazed.
Really
I was like, wow,
pleased,
we're really on it, right? And the coolest thing about that record is what you'll probably notice if you listen to the size of the crowd, it was actually recorded in a club, right?
Right.
So we did this tour where we were doing like 15, 20,000 people a night, where we would have that.
The example is some like you're using the little one,
like some Ted Nugent wild.
Were you tempted to just record a little patch off of a Kiss album and like loop it in the background?
No, and this was the thing. It was like, so when you listen to it, I think it's a bit more intimate. It was done in a club in Poland, right?
Right, yeah.
So, but I know why that was the best recording in a way. It was because by the time we got there, it was the end of the tour, right?
Yeah.
We played all these massive venues with all the kind of pressure and the stress and the nerves, right? And then we went into this club and we did 2 nights in clubs to about 1,500 people.
Right, yeah.
Stripped down gear a bit. And we just went on stage and we didn't care. We were just like, we've done a whole tour, whatever, it's a club. We're just going to rip the place up. And we forgot we were even recording it, right? Yeah. And so when I listened to the things, it was like, that's the one, because it had...
it's just, the abandon is there,
Yeah, but the playing was absolutely spot on. I was kind of amazed.
Because it's the end of you just doing it until you're just like, you can do it without necessarily having to, what am I doing now? Kind of thing. Like, do you write things that you end up going, why did I write this? This is really hard to do now.
Everything. Yes. Because, being the guitarist, obviously, I get in the studio, I manage to track stuff and overdub melodies.
Yeah.
Goes, right, let's do it live. You've got to do all that. And you're just like, that's like 3 parts.
How do I do all of this? Yeah. Do you use do you do much dancing on your pedals to loop little bits and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, what I do is I listen to the tracks after we finish recording, and I listen to them and I go, first of all, I program all the effects and the raps so they sound the same. But then I go, which parts can I live with and which I can't live without? And then I make a conscious decision to play certain bits and not the others. You know what I mean? So I single them out.
Yeah,
so, if you listen to Twisted, the live version compared to the record, the record's got
tons
harmonies,
of little bits going
all these
on.
bits. Whereas a live one, I just go, as an octave pedal.
This is the bit you need,
Yeah, doubling. I use like 2 or 3 amps and octave pedals and also, so it sounds really full. And then on the last tour or so, we've also had Erica Footman, who's our session player, who does backing vocals. She does a bit of keyboards, plays a little bit of rhythm guitar. Skin plays a bit of acoustic and rhythm. Yeah. So we match up, but it's and that's how we write the records. All in the place in one room. We only just do a bit of artistic license.
Of course.
When we get in the studio.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think anybody who listens to your records can hear like you add some bits on and they're really nice, like sweeteners, like, if you know what I mean, like, this is a nice little part that's on here, whereas I don't think it ever compromises kind of the feeling that you're listening to what a band could do when you went and saw them, if you know what I mean. So but so do you have a favorite pedal at the moment? You got a little favorite that you're like, this is fun?
I'm really enjoying there's this thing called a Guru's double decker. Right. And basically it's like an overdriver type preamp valve thing, right? But the reason I like it is because it makes my amp sound like Gary Moore.
I'm noticing a theme here.
I love Gary Moore's guitar sound. I love it. I think it's just brilliant. It's blues sound, right?
Of course.
Totally over the top. It's like basically like someone put a rocket up some old blues guy's ass, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And it's just so extreme. But so this double decker pedal, it gives you that kind of tone,
Right,
so that's my favourite one at the moment.
Yeah, wicked, awesome. And so I wanted to say, obviously, you're doing some other stuff at the moment with your teaching as the school, and you were telling me about you were telling me all about the stuff that you're doing at the moment. I wanted you to talk about
well, kind of, with this kind of like, obviously with lockdown, there's like everything's going online and it's a change, and then there's like loads and loads of people doing loads of stuff, like you're doing this show, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's loads of people just doing kind of any kind of mindless online content, isn't there? Like, I just film myself with a cat on my head in the back of the garden. People are like that, whatever. And then there's people kind of going, I'll just Instagram, look, big up the NHS, they're doing a great job. Here I am in my swimming pool drinking champagne, doing my bit for the lockdown, you know, all that kind of stuff. So when a lot of people approach me to do things, so I haven't got a lot of time because I'm doing college stuff. So what I've done is I picked the choice ones, the quality ones, right?
Yeah.
So I did a guitar jam the other day for PRS called Isolation Sessions.
Right, cool.
And it was like a video. Obviously, we get the stems and we all play and film ourselves.
Right.
I have the least impressive studio because I'm in my house. I don't have a studio. It's in my room with my headphones on. Right? But there was Jacko from King Crimson, Simon McBride, Piers from Sweet Crisis, and Rob Harris from Jamiroquai. And we just did this track together, which was really nice, you know, a piece of music and guitar solo. So we did that. And then PRS Guitars of America have come to me this week and asked me to do something where I can play a section of a song and fans and their employees can play over the top guitar solos.
Yeah.
So I think that's really valid. On the Skunk kind of Instagram web at the moment, I've got guitar films coming out, a really good quality of how to play Skunk songs. So there's that as well.
You'll have all these Skunk tribute bands popping up suddenly.
Yeah.
More PRS for you.
Yeah,
good.
Exactly. We're talking Skunk. We're going to do something. I was in touch with Skin today about the a cappella app, you know, where you can do all something together in the room. You know.
And what are you studying at the moment then? You're studying yourself?
No. I'm actually.
No, you're setting up a school.
No, I'm a director of a bunch of schools.
Right. So tell us more about that. That's what I was trying to get at. Sorry, I lost my thread a little. I'm a bit worried about how long the time is going to let us record. I don't know if Zoom's got a limit. So I suddenly looked up and I was like, we've been talking an hour, haven't we? So I didn't know whether maybe
an hour.
Is it?
So any minute it will cut off, but you can.
Yeah, tell me about that. So they've definitely got it. Yeah.
Right. So so at the moment, what I do is I am a director of ACM, which is Academy of Contemporary Music. So that's like 2,500 students over 3 campuses. So Birmingham, London, and Guildford. So we can go for 25 years as well.
Really, has it? Crikey.
Yeah. And I'm director of creative industry development. I've been there a long time, actually.
Yeah.
So I managed to run that at the same time as doing Skunk, because Skunk's probably 3 months a year if you squish it all down.
Right.
For the rest of the year, 9 months, I literally work from like 8 till 7 every day, you know, and longer. And at the moment, what we're doing is we are changing everything to online for term 3, because obviously all of the campuses are closed.
Right.
So we are literally working 12 hours a day every day. Hence me saying to you this interview in evening to get all the stuff, the materials together, the content, the films, the platforms, the assessments, even the gear to the students so they can complete their studies and get their degrees online, because obviously this is their last term to get their qualification certificate. So we're just going nuts to get all that done, and it's really challenging. I mean, every day is like crisis management and a big challenge.
Really?
But we're achieving so much as a team, right? In an area that we were really quite vague on, really.
Right,
I mean, we all know a bit about the internet. But
if
you've got to turn a physical music college with 2,500 students into an online entity, like in a few weeks.
Crazy,
it's crazy. So the term starts on Monday, right? And that's literally what we're doing day and night, right? But it's it's amazing. I mean, I've been there in that position. I've been there 5 years now,
right?
And I've been involved with the college for 25 years.
Wow!
Right, since it started, doing master classes and tutorials and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And a while back, quite a long time ago, I did an MA based in music education.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of got my stripes, and then I have my own guitar schools, which are part-time schools in Italy. So they're called the Ace Guitar Academy, which started off really the relationship with ACM, knowing them through that. But ACM also owns Metropolis, which is one of Europe's biggest recording studios. So I also do work in there as well. So it's a full-on life, doing bands, online collaborations, and having to run a music.
And if people want to find out more about the music school, where should they go along to?
Oh, it's just acm.ac.uk. But the cool thing is that we also do scholarships right? And so Skunk Anansie's got a scholarship. That's in our 4th year. So we, pay for a student's whole education, 25,000 quid or something,
That's
to
really cool.
get them through. I've just started a new one this year, Sylvia Massey. There you go, connection. I rang Sylvia up and said, will you do a production scholarship?
Wicked.
We have Freddie Mercury scholarship.
Wow.
Also, I've got a new tour management company called 8th Day, which is a really big entity in the world of logistics and PAs and touring. They've got a scholarship now. Ivor Novello have got a scholarship.
Wow.
And we've also got Keith Loud, who's a businessman who's passed away, unfortunately, but his legacy is this business scholarship. So every year, 150 grand's worth of scholarships go out to students.
Wow, that's so cool.
To do their whole degree. You know? But the Skunk one's got some great people on it. The students on it are fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. Wicked. Yeah, that's amazing. I am obviously I remember when you were doing your clinics going around as well, and obviously Mark did one, and Pat, our drummer, went to his clinic and really enjoyed playing.
Mate,
hit it.
Yeah,
really that was how he took
it. Really
but actually, he did learn a little weird thing, like something about how he was coming into. How he heard something coming into, I think it was on Charlie Big Potato or something, where it's like the da 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 at the beginning or something. It's like, actually, what I do is this, and he was like, right, and it's a little kind of like, a little click, like sometimes you just pick up a little thing that you go, that makes me think about things a little differently. Do you know what I mean? So, he definitely came away with something a bit more than. Hit it, mate.
His clinics are really good. They're like raw power at the same time as just keeping really good time in a groove. It's like I really enjoy Mark's clinics. Really, really good.
Wicked. Yeah. So I mean, I've done most of what I was trying to do. I think without I think we've done all of it, hopefully, without labouring it, hopefully. But I was going to ask whether if you got I was going to do a long one and say a favourite song off each album, but maybe have you got top 3 riffs that you've wrote and your top 3 riffs that you just think are the best?
Okay, top 3 that I've written. Yes, It's Fucking Political.
Right.
That's a really good one. That's it. Yeah. Charlie Big Potato.
Yeah,
that's a really good one.
Best bit in that though, I'm going to put it on film now because I've told you before anyway. But it's the bit in the middle after you've had this amazing song with all the beautiful vocals, the amazing strings, the riffing and everything. It's when it goes into that heavy bit. It's It's just so good.
That was my idea. Yeah,
so good. So it's such a Beavis and Butthead moment. It's so good. Wicked.
Yeah, so was it Charlie? Yes, It's Fucking Political. I think I really like. There's a riff on An Architecture called Suckers.
Yes,
and it was just such a last-minute thing that we just chucked it down, on the album. Yeah. But I thought that was a great riff.
Yeah, wicked, awesome. Yeah,
and riffs. Oh, I suppose riffs I really, really like. I think Whole Lot of Love. I think is brilliant. Right. Because it's so simple.
Yeah.
I think something like Sweet Leaf, Black Sabbath.
Right, of course, yeah.
All right.
Classic. Good enough for the Chili's, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Give it away. And then, what would really get me going? Albatross by Corrosion of Conformity.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, my God. It's just stupendous riff. That
really
riff,
awesome. That's a good shout out. Yeah, more people should hear of that band.
Yeah.
Definitely. Awesome.
Yeah, I do love a riff. I mean, rock music is based around riffs, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the key.
Yeah, it's the key, isn't it? So, if it gets you going, and I'm in the car, huge riff. Yes.
Yeah. I was loving, what's the name? Both I Will Break You and Sticky Fingers in Your Honey off of Black Traffic. Yeah. Both great riffs and great rockers, like classic Skunk Anansie riff rockers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we never play Sticky Fingers.
You should play the one.
Well, because we can't.
Oh, really? Wowza.
It's too hard.
Hilarious. Yeah, I love the heaviest rockers on Post-Orgasmic Chill as well. But say This Is Nothing That I Thought I Had. I love. And obviously we don't need Think You Are is just, that one's
Oh,
huge riff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that down. Actually, I'll
That,
swap Suckers for that one.
oh really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
wicked. Yeah,
that riff actually came out of when we went to LA, right? And we were doing a photo shoot. So one night we went to Las Vegas, and I'd never been to Las Vegas. And when I went there, I just thought it was quite awful, actually. Right? I mean, I got over it since. Obviously, I quite
sure.
enjoy it. But I was like, "What is this place, man? It's
Right.
just like full of these awful people, like spending money in slot machines, and it just was so weird."
Yeah.
And I went back to the hotel and I wrote that riff.
Right, yeah, wicked,
Right?
awesome.
And then just this monster riff, and then at the same time, then we went over to South Africa, and Skin was like, "Oh, that's the riff," and then we wrote the song about South Africa, which is We Don't Need Who You Think You Are. But that was quite a radical monster at the time.
There's such a phenomenal vocal performance on that record, and even live, you did a version on Jules Holland, which Skin just nails it, and you think like, wow, she nailed that, like live, like on Jules Holland, like she's great at rising to the occasion. I always feel like she's the one you can put in that spot, and like she'll deliver, like always.
Exactly.
Awesome. Right, wicked. Well, I think I don't want to take up all your time. You've got so much going on and everything. I could talk to you for hours and hours, as you probably know anyway. But yeah, so thanks very much.
It's a pleasure.
And yeah, I guess I'll just stick up loads of stuff and send them your way, basically. Send the people your way. But thanks so much for spending the time chatting with us, and take care of yourself during all of this, and I'll no doubt see you hopefully when you're back touring, fingers crossed.
I was before I was having dinner before this, wasn't I? And I was saying to my wife, I'm going to speak to Lee from Smilex. You remember they came around my house and we mixed that record, and they gave my son a little tiny T-shirt.
Amazing. Did you remember?
She's that's right.
Wicked. Awesome.
That was a good time. I have to say though, Lee, blowing a trumpet for you though, because I've always told you this though, I've always really liked your lyrics, and when we did that record, which was 7, wasn't it? Right.
Yeah.
I was really. I said to you at the time, I loved your lyrics because they were so honest, right?
Yeah.
And they were so aggressive,
Thanks.
right? And they were just like nobody cared, kind of. I don't give a fuck that type of lyrics, right?
Yeah.
And when you do something that is that kind of like, I suppose, genuine and honest, it lasts, doesn't it, right?
Yeah.
And recently, the beauty of iTunes, I'm like, what do I want to listen to? And I was like, I want to listen to Flimsy Fickle Fashion, right?
Really,
so just pop it on iTunes, right? And I'm in my car, right? And I mean, I could have got a speeding ticket like for going 150 miles an hour.
Really,
right? It was just like,
awesome.
It was like, oh my god, the song hasn't lost it, right? The ferociousness about that song.
That album. Like, if I get run over by a bus tomorrow, which I hope I don't, because I've got some more in me, but you could hold up 7 and say, I'd say, it's still, the lyrics still seem to be relevant today, which is kind of sad. I wish they weren't, in a way, because it's raging against a lot of stuff that you would hope wouldn't be around because it was written ages ago. And so, and then also the weird thing about the thing is that someone's actually crashed their car to 8 Big Man before. So that has actually happened. So you do have to, maybe our album should come with a warning, like, watch out if you're in the car, just watch out, because you might get carried away. So
it's great. It's, as I said, the lyrics, they haven't aged at all, and they were just brilliant. That song in particular, I love it. It was just such a smash in the face.
Well,
right?
Thanks so much.
And it's,
back at you. I was I revisited X for the because it's 10-year anniversary of that song, and your mix job on that first. I was trying to do a remix just to kind of celebrate the 10-year thing and just do a remix. And I was just like, there's no real improving on it. It already sounds as good as you, like, there's no need. Like, it's nicer when anybody else is sending me remixes, really, because I just came to it like this. It's already exactly as I want it. There's nothing I want any different on this. It's already brilliant. So so your work, it's your work too that's stood up all that time. Like, who knows, we might have got some awful person, and then we'd be looking back now and going, oh no, look at our first album, it's awful. So thank you so much. It's
brilliant.
It's great, isn't
brilliant.
it?
Yeah,
wicked.
wicked.
Cool, man. Awesome. Well, yeah, keep on rocking. Thanks so much for doing this. And yeah, we'll keep in touch anyway, dude. Take care of yourself.
Wicked,
yeah.
Wicked. Hey, Lee, just before you go.
Go on then.
Just before you go, right? You know, like they had that one thingy concert the other day, right? You know.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't seen it yet
because I was working, right? But I'm going to watch it, right? But I saw some clips on the news, right? What's more fascinating to you, right? Song or the fact you can see inside their house?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that. Like, there's certainly, like, if I had to watch the thing all the way through, like, I think I'd spend a lot of time on all the acts, because there's a lot of acts I'm not that interested in on there.
Yeah.
And there's some ones that I really am, like, obviously the Stones and Eddie Vedder and certain things you're like, oh, I really want to see that Stevie Wonder. Do you know what I mean? I really want to see that. But during all the other bits, I'd be like, oh, what have they got in the background there? What have they got there? Yeah. Their place isn't that nice. Oh, they didn't tidy up very well for this, did they?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think that could be a big... I think it's weird with that now, because by like now, I can probably go to each of those individuals' like own site and probably see their performance, because it's just one song, isn't it? So really, in a strange way, now, like 2 days later, the whole thing, not like Live Aid, back in Live Aid days, you didn't like suddenly you could see Queen's performance on its own anyway, so you didn't need to check through the rest. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to watch it tomorrow.
You're going to do that? Are you going to do it like a marathon, the whole lot?
Yeah. It's 2 hours, isn't it? So I'm going to watch it tomorrow night. I'm going to watch it. You know what? To be honest, I forgot it was happening and I missed it totally, and I just saw it on the news. But it's a great thing. But it is fascinating. I think that's part of the fascination, is to see people at home doing their thing. It's a big part weird, isn't it?
It's weird, isn't it? Well, it's been very strange curating this show and just, you know, all this stuff from people, and they're all just in the like it never changes. It's just like, oh,
I'm in my kitchen. There you go. I'm in my kitchen.
Yeah, that's lovely art on the back. What is that?
That is I can't remember the name of the guy because it's got a really weird signature. From Prague. About 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I went over there, I was just with my wife, and we were looking at paintings. We're both artists ourselves, you know, fine artists, and we went in this store, and there was these two pictures, and they looked like us, just painted by this guy, because this looks like my wife, this one up here, she's Japanese, right? And there's me, tall and miserable, with a hat on, right? And
you're not miserable.
We were just like, that's really weird. Look, those two pictures kind of look like us, and it was only two in the shop. And so I bought them back in the day, and now the guy's like some super famous artist.
Really crazy.
In Prague, yeah. And his
maybe it's the same effect as... It may be the same effect as when your dad bought that guitar. Maybe you've got like the weird Midas touch, and all these businesses just like, they're suddenly like, Ace bought it, so you might as well. Suddenly you're launching all these little businesses. You say you're tall and miserable, but you might be tall. I wouldn't know. I'm shorter than everybody. I'm always looking up at everybody. But I like these interviews because we're about the same, aren't we? But I was going to say, you're not miserable at all. You've always been a real ray of positivity into my life anyway, so cheers for that.
You're too kind.
No, really, honestly though, you're a good dude. It's nice to, as you say, you know, like your thing with Lemmy and everything, it's nice to have, like, you know, someone where you're like, Ace is a dude. He
was a great guy. Right, I suppose I better leave you to chop this up.
Take care, buddy.
Time to snip. And
actually, I'll sit back from it, and Grace will do it with her kind of like.
She'll cut it all out. She'll be like, "That's rubbish. Chuck that bit out." It'll be like 5 minutes. It'll be like literally 5 minutes. And she goes, "What is this bloke? He's just talking rubbish."
Hi, I'm Ace from Skunk Anansie. Thanks, very good. Take care, man. Rickard, look after yourself. Yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Stop recording.